Hello, this is Joe Lansdale, and I'm gratified and excited to have films made from my stories appear at this festival. Enjoy them. Thank you. Bubba Hotep, and I'm being asked questions about the story and the film version. And it says, how could we ever imagine that one day Elvis Presley and a black JFK living in a retirement home having to face a mummy? Is this the kind of idea that comes quite naturally? To answer the first part, yeah, that idea does come to me naturally. A lot of ideas like that do, especially in shorter fiction. I find that's the place where I like to experiment the most. The idea came to me because my mother was in an accident and she had to be in a rest home for a while. And so I spent a lot of time there. And I sort of picked up on the flavor of what was going on there. And that was in my mind. And I'd always had this title, Bubba Hotep. And I just thought it was a funny title. And of course, it struck me as, dealing with an Egyptian mummy with the Hotep part. And my brother, who is 17 years older than me, married a lady in Memphis who went to school with Elvis Presley. So he met Elvis before Elvis was really big Elvis. And so she had graduated high school with him. So that was sort of there. And I was a fan of Elvis's music. I grew up with it. And, I heard it when it very first came on the radio when I was just a little child. And then the JFK assassination took place in, I guess I was 11 when that happened in 63. And so those things impacted me. There are things I thought about. And I was asked by an anthologist, an editor, to write a story about Elvis for a book called Elvis is Dead. And there were a lot of other people. I think Lou Reed did one, and I can't remember who all else was in it. But I said, yes, I'll do that. And I wrote a story, and it was Bubba Hotep, and I sent it off. And after I sent it off, I got to thinking about it, and I said, that may be the craziest damn thing I've ever written. And maybe I'm not sure that that's going to make any sense. And I was just thinking about withdrawing it, and I got a letter back. They loved it. It was their favorite in the book, and it's of course gone on to be reprinted numerous times here and overseas, as well as being made into a film that I like a whole lot. I think the adaptation is the best adaptation of all of my work that's been put on film or TV. It's essentially something I've already answered, but it's number two is that what do I think of that adaptation of Bubba Hotep? And once again, I'd say I think it's the best adaptation of my work. It's become something of a cult classic, but it's moving into something more of a just film classic. It shows on TV over here all the time on different channels, and there are a lot of opportunities at film festivals and things of that nature. So I'm greatly happy with it. And what changes they made, a lot of them were due to the fact of special effects, which they could not afford. And also there were some additions to kind of frame it in a way that people watching the film could ease themselves into it and understand it better. And I couldn't have been happier with Bruce Campbell or Ossie Davis or Don Coscarelli as a director. So, and all of the people who played other parts in the film or worked on the film were just magnificent. And I remember when I saw some of the dailies, and I knew then, I said, this is it. They've nailed it. And when I saw the whole thing put together, I couldn't have been happier. And yes, I was very happy. Don is a friend of mine. He called me one time on the phone, and he said, I'd like to come out and visit you for a few days. And I said, yeah, come on. So he stayed a few days, and we talked about different projects. And I don't think those materialized, but there were two that he was interested in optioning later. And that was Bubba Hotep and Incident on and Off of Mountain Road, which was later filmed for Showtime, Masters of Horror, which I was also very happy with. So yeah, I'm very happy with it. And of course, I enjoyed meeting Bruce, and we've become friends. I respect him quite a bit. So yeah. Now the cold in July questions. The novel from which the film is based had a very complex narrative and with equally complex characters. How do you think this completely was rendered? once again, I'm very happy with it. I don't think it's quite as faithful as Bubba Hotep, but it's pretty faithful. There are a couple things I think they've kind of left out that I wish would have been in, but I can't complain about that. I think it's one of the better post-noirs, as they call them, and it's highly rewatchable. Michael C. Hall, I just thought was fantastic because he had to be in every scene or just about every scene, and he carried it. And he changed gradually in such a way that I thought was very believable. Of course, you have Don Johnson, who was terrific as Jim Bob Luke, and you have Sam Shepard, who played Russell. And anybody that would have all those three actors, main actors in their film, are really, really fortunate. And I was fortunate. And also, I had Jim Mickle directing. I had Mick Demichi doing the script. So, and later they worked on the Happy Leonard television series too. So I can't really complain. I think it's just wonderful. And like I say, I've been very fortunate with films that have been filmed. I've not been as fortunate with some of the screenplays and dealing with some of the other cinematic possibilities that I'm glad didn't get made for a lot of reasons. Another question is, can we say that beyond the criminal narrative, Cold in July is also deals with two important subjects that seem to run through much of your work, such as fatherhood and the way in which you use violence, even if it seems necessary that it profoundly changes people? Yeah, I think that when you do books or stories with violence, unless it's cartoonish violence, I think that it's designed to not just to be there for, oh my God, look at the violence. I think when people are young, that's what they see more than they see the complexity of it. I always thought, for instance, that Sam Peckinpah used it not to promote violence, and he used it somewhat like a ballet, but the whole point of it was to show the reality of it. To me, I'm more offended by stuff where people get shot and nobody bleeds and it doesn't seem real. And you know that person's going to get up in a minute. You know that in the other films as well. But for a moment, you're convinced that this is real, and people are changed by these actions, and people have to deal with the aftermath of these events. And I think that that's important. Violence is part of who we are. That doesn't mean it should be accepted and easily embraced, but it has to be looked at. It has to be thought about. It has to be studied because it's appealing to us. And what makes it appealing, that's what interests me, and also how we deal with that appeal. I mean, some people have said like a certain book or a movie or a story makes people violent, and I don't believe that. I think some people may react to it that way because there are other reasons. But think about all of the people who see it that are not violent, and you could almost say that it's a catharsis. You could go by statistics and say this many people saw this film and they didn't commit a crime. You could try to say, well, that's why they didn't, which would be equally as ridiculous. But the point is that I think it's there as a catharsis to a lot of us. And when it's really done well, and I think it was in Cold in July, it gives us some way of looking at the complexity of it and thinking about it. Let's see, what's the next question here? I think that's it. All right, thank you.